Hi, everybody. Welcome to the first episode of the Roadies and Rebels podcast. My name is Greg McVeigh, and I think it's only fitting that my first guest for the first episode is my dear friend Denny Tedesco. Please like and subscribe this channel, and without further ado, hit it.
Gossip for some is a real event. They strap on and button up their Sunday best. Stand straight and smile and do all the rest. Don't laugh, she bandied it's ridiculous. Lying of bullshit. It came to rest and said, oh, somehow I got fast. Yeah, I'm a little embarrassed.
Since you've interviewed so many people, celebrities, artists, that whole thing, and you ask them questions. My question is, am I allowed to hold my clipboard?
If they don't see it.
Because it freaks me out. If they don't see. So don't do that.
Yeah, but no, the word, no. It's
We're
the
good?
worst. It's fun. It's seriously, that is the biggest problem I have is like, it's not, you got your questions, you got your questions. They know you got your questions. But
There's
the
going to be
problem is-
questions.
There's got to be questions, but the problem is, how do you try to be into the interview and listening with it, and then glancing down like, and
And
it's hard.
well, I feel much better. Excuse me.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right, he says yes, but I shouldn't jot the answers down. That's ridiculous.
No, unless you put it on there, you put the questions on the actual person themselves. So
Which we simply can't do
like a
here.
Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando
Yeah.
needed that.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. But they were together.
Yes, exactly.
We can't really do that. Okay, tell me what's new. How you been? It's been a while.
It's good. It's good.
What have you
I
been
just
working
started. My new doc that I actually working on is Manhattan Transfer, and
Nice.
I am loving that because
bad.
I was a huge fan when I was in college. And people think, oh, I'm Mr. Rock and Roll because of all the two films I do. But this one is like the one that kills me because I'm really. I said to Alan, one of the singer in the group, the remaining singer. Well, Tim started it many years ago with Alan and Janice and Laurel, and then Tim passed away a few years ago. And Alan, they were doing this, they started kind of working on this idea for a doc, and they had done a bunch of interviews but got nowhere. And then COVID hit. Tim had already passed, and they needed some direction, and they called me up, and I said, oh, I'm so into this.
You're
but
the
what's
guy.
so cool is being able to sit and listen to it, even if it's a song I've never heard, I
Right.
so get into it very quickly.
And you were a
Because
big
it's
fan.
music- I was a huge fan.
That's
I
interesting.
mean, people, I hear, you know why? And I know this, even though they're a vocal group,
Right.
So I figured this out. You know me. I can't hear a lyric to save my life. I mean, it's a weird thing. I seriously don't hear lyrics. I have to read them if I had to. I can't distinguish them if I'm listening to them. So, but how I hear them is they're one voice. So they're
Yeah,
an
yeah.
instrument. I mean, I'm hearing them do vocalese, and my brother Damon, who you know,
Sure.
I had him mix Miles Davis' "Move" with their version and basically laid it over. And the
Nice.
whole point of vocalese is they're copying. The vocals are basically Miles's solo.
The instruments, right?
The instruments, yeah.
That's the
And it's
blend becomes that instrument.
It's wild.
Yeah.
And it's really so. I hear that as for me, it's like I hear, I can hear guitar players. I hear, players. That's how I grew up. So that's
You
what
hear
I hear.
parts, right?
Yeah.
You can hear parts because your dad and all that. That's really interesting. And when they do those vocal, maybe you don't know this, but this is something that always kind of interested me. Do they do? They must do them together. It's a stupid
Oh yeah.
question. As I say it out loud.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because times have changed. When they started doing it, obviously in the 70s and 80s, when they were huge, and were doing it, they did it around one mic.
One mic, yeah.
And they would do is, the producer would say, okay, back up, Alan, or come close. And they go by inch, put a piece of tape down, just like that. And the thing is, you got to they would rehearse line by line by line. Because if you got a John Hendricks, I mean, some of the, John Hendricks of Hendricks, Lambert, and Ross, he would write these lyrics for them, and he was a famous vocal group, and they were moving so fast. So you go line by line by line, and there's a point where it's like,
Wow.
they can't even. They were struggling with it. He goes, "Don't worry about the lyrics. This is the guy that wrote the lyrics. Don't worry about the lyrics. You just get the rhythm out.
Yeah.
It's all about that." He goes, so he's like saying, ignore the words, but
Wow.
that's the only way you could get through it. And they would
Yeah.
listen, let's say, to a Miles or whatever song they're doing. They would listen to that over thousands of times so they could feel that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
It's very intricate. Yeah.
Oh, extremely intricate.
And then harmonies on it.
And then, the stacking of the four-part harmony. And that was the whole point in which now I feel like I can talk about it. They would, it was closed part harmony, and they would sing different parts, and that was something that wasn't around on radio when they started. That was the
Right.
whole point. Is there was no four-part harmony on radio. It was like something that no one was doing at the time. So when they came out, I mean, it's funny because, for those who remember, it looked like a kind of a gimmick, but it wasn't. Because a gimmick is, okay, well, how long is that going to last? But what they would do is they would just continue changing. At first, it was all white tails and tuxedos, and that was the whole point.
Right.
And then they went into, a whole other era, and kept going. And they would take Brazilian music and country music, and they would all right, so here's the thing. It's like they had 18 Grammy nominations. They have 10 Grammys. 10 Grammys. I mean, so, I interviewed Jimmy Jam, and I interviewed David Foster, and I interviewed Sean from Boys to Men, and Scott from Pentatonics, and we interviewed a few others. But what blows my mind is how much they influenced those people, especially Jimmy Jam. Was like he came into the studios just starting going blah, 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 and going and this and this and this and this, and I'm going like, what the hell? I hadn't, he was talking shit that I didn't know, and he's telling Alan and the girls, just talking musician stuff and how much, it meant to them when they were in high school.
That's so interesting. My brother Scott, I told him that you were involved with this, and he's like you. He said, I loved the Manhattan Transfer.
Maybe, part of it was because we were visual.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
It was really, so what's really interesting about this group, when by the way, this is probably my first interview about Manhattan Transfer.
Keep talking.
So you got an exclusive.
Yes, I did. Once you got set up.
Yeah, once we got there. What's interesting,
You knew it was worth the wait.
That's it. What's interesting is they didn't just come out and just sing these jazz songs or whatever songs, they were singing songs that nobody in that generation heard because they weren't standards of 30, 40 years ago. But they came out and they would do dance, they would do characters, and they really put. It was like watching Broadway. I mean, I see these concerts of 50,000 people in a stadium.
Yeah.
And it was like, smoke and, changing of costumes. It was
Video.
in, that Twilight Zone. They took Twilight Zone, and that became a huge hit in disco, end of the disco era. So it was pretty cool.
No, the whole thing sounds cool. Sounds very cool. And, I used to like the Mills Brothers. It's not exactly apples to apples, but that kind of harmony that sounded like one voice.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it was. And that's what they were influenced by. They were influenced by the Mills Brothers, by the Hi-Los, Pied Pipers, and all those. It's funny, as those are the groups that our parents kind of grew up with. That's how we heard them.
Yeah, I just like the harmony. Oh, Brian Wilson was influenced by the Mills Brothers.
Exactly. Four Freshmen.
I think maybe more the Four Freshmen, but that kind of thing, those vocal things. And I think maybe what the little bit I know about Manhattan Transfer was that they popped it up. Somehow it just hit right with a younger audience. It could be for a lot of different reasons.
No, absolutely. They sang it but they brought their selves to it.
Yeah,
You know, so
some
it's funny
pizzazz
because and it was funny because Janice said we made pop songs sound jazzy and jazz songs sound pop, like pop.
That's true.
And
that
it
is
was
true.
when you think about it, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
And so they do they had the first two albums before. So Laurel and the original group was Tim, Alan, Janice, and Laurel. And all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, they did 7 years and they had two albums and they had a TV show. They had 4 shows in the summer of '75 where they replaced the Cher, like a summer replacement. And you look at that and go, that's a major TV show. So they're hitting,
Huge, yeah.
So they're, again, they only had 2 albums at this point. But
geez, it just sunk in.
Yeah. So then,
Wow.
then by 78, Laurel gets into a horrible accident, almost gets killed by it. And she decides, I can't continue. And so she'd already been doing it for 7 years. And then Cheryl comes in and they auditioned 10 singers and they picked Cheryl. And they said she was like, instantly, they knew it was Cheryl. So we always kid as Cheryl's the new girl. She's been with them for 42 years.
Yeah, right.
But she's
The rookie.
The rookie, yeah, exactly. And the first album she comes in, literally, is Birdland. That's the first album that which Jay Graydon's producing. You look at those albums, and for those who remember what the credits were like. I mean, you had Jay Graydon, David Foster, you had Lukather, you had Jeff Porcaro, you had all of those guys playing that stuff, and everything was so tight. That was one thing that Sean of Boys to Men said. He goes, you listen to that stuff, everything was perfect. The vocals are perfect, right in harmony. And then everything with the instrumentation, at that time it was really. And don't forget, there was no Pro Tools, so they're really kind of like, they might be cutting tape and stuff, but they're really pushing it.
It was singers, talented singers. You can't screw around.
You
with
can't
that.
just throw anybody in there.
Yeah. And
I mean,
that blend.
maybe you, Greg. Greg, I've heard you sing. I think you.
Well, yeah. I mean, I can barely talk.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. That's cool. Well, let's go back to a little bit. You grew up obviously in a very musical environment with your dad being Tommy Tedesco, the Wrecking Crew, and guitar guy. Wait.
I mean,
Did you play an instrument?
You know what? I do play
Do tell.
rain stick. I play rain stick, and I'm now an official recorded artist on rain stick.
Really?
I had my first recording last week. Yes.
Okay, so you're a rain stick guy.
I'm a rain stick. I still, there's a guitar right there.
That's yours?
And there's
That's the Adamus?
Oh, there's another guitar. Oh, and another guitar.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you got guitars.
I got guitars.
And a rain stick.
Good on the walls.
Same with me.
I will get there. I just, something told me, someone I heard said you got to practice, and I haven't done that yet.
I was the same.
Yeah,
I have to what?
Yeah,
but I mean, I've talked about this a little bit, but I was the worst kind of drummer because I was inconsistent because I didn't practice.
Yeah. Well, I could
I
never
was
even get that far.
Let's go. Greg, you're dragging. Greg, you're rushing. Damn it. But I love this.
Make a choice, Greg.
Pick one. We'll go with you. We'll follow you. I know that's not how it's supposed to be, but pick one.
It's very funny.
And were you in the marching band? I have heard.
I was in the marching band. Thank you, Greg. Thank you for bringing that up. I got out of
Part of your
It was
career.
1976. Times were tough in those days. I was in an all boys school, and I was in typing class, and the guy his name was Brother Ricardo. It was all boys, Catholic boys school.
You got it all lined up.
Yep. And they had those marching. You would have to look up there and look at the music or listen to the marching music, not the band, but marching music. You would learn how to type on the manual typewriters.
As it relates to typing, I didn't.
Oh, absolutely. It had nothing
I
to
took
do with
typing, but
music.
we didn't have. They probably knew I was bad with time.
Yeah. No, we didn't have, literally, I mean, it's manual, like dun, dun,
Yeah,
dun, dun. So, and then you were just looking at the board where the keys were, so that was helping. And then if you looked at your keys, he'd come around and hit you with a ruler. And you're like, bam! You're like,
Yeah.
okay. 3 times you get thrown out of the class. You get thrown into the hallway. So I found myself in the hallway a few times. And I thought, why, 6 months, I think I could type. I don't need this anymore. And I used my father. I said, my dad's a musician. I really like to play an instrument. And I got out of typing class
Rain stick.
after 6 months, and I joined the band, and they gave me a saxophone, which never did anything with it. Again,
Tough way to
looked
start.
good, but I was a banner carrier, and I was a proud
We got
banner
to it.
carrier. I was, I think I was the letter O in Notre Dame.
I think it's appropriate.
Yeah. O for
Letter
lose,
O.
do
Now,
zero.
Tommy is from Buffalo. Where were you born?
I'm born in, he's from Niagara Falls.
Or Niagara Falls? I had,
It's a big difference for the people in Niagara Falls.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Across the
Take that
bridge.
back.
I was born in the Valley. It's Burbank, St. Joseph's, and grew up in the Valley my whole life.
Right.
And it looks like I will die in the Valley. I've traveled everywhere. I love other parts of the world, but I don't see me leaving too soon yet.
You don't want to leave too soon.
No,
That's
but I
bad.
do love the world.
You do?
Yeah, I
That's the
would love
difference
to.
between you and me.
I would love. Yes, that is a difference.
I don't love that.
I think you know what I think if here's a game I'll play, Greg. You could live till 100, but straight through, all the way to 100, or you live to 80, and you get to have 2 decades or 1 decade to like extend it. Like if it was the 20s, you could do 10 years of the 20s, or 20 years of that age. What decade would you want to be reliving?
I don't understand the. Explain it again.
All right, so you have to play. Basically, you have to.
There's math involved, from what I can
That
tell.
is not that big. What decade would you want to redo if you could do 10
Redo?
years? Not redo, or just do it again. Like which
Well, that's
decade did you have
redo.
so much fun that you had no fun?
I thought I made that clear.
I'm sorry.
I'm no
I
fun.
spun this on you. I'm asking you questions. I mean, if I could redo things, I would do is I traveled a lot, but I would love, a lot of you guys, like yourself, you even came out here to live. I've never lived anywhere else. I kind of briefly lived in England for a little while, but I would love to, go travel and live somewhere, in my 20s.
Oh, in your 20s.
In my 20s. That's what I'm saying. Not now.
Well, that's the whole thing is preposterous.
Yeah, well.
It's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous premise. Okay, get back to my interview. God damn it!
That's right.
Now you've got me
you will
thinking
edit me,
about
right?
this. I would.
Yeah. You will edit me.
Oh yeah, massively.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'll be editing the. Where the hell is Denny? Cut out again. Let's talk about the Wrecking Crew, because I know you've done a million interviews and you're probably semi-sick of it, but talk about its origins. I kind of obviously know this story, but
Yeah, all right. So growing up, everybody, you said something earlier that I was about to jump on. Growing up in a musical house, I did not grow up in a musical house. I did not, like I said earlier, I didn't play an instrument. I didn't see my father. I'm born in '61. I didn't see my father literally like practice or play, other than play for himself, until 1975 when he started doing jazz albums.
that's really interesting.
Because he went to work every day. He went to work for 12, 14 hours a day. So in the 60s, he's gone all the time for, I don't see
It was the work. Yeah, he was going to work. Yeah.
So he's practicing all the time. He's, so he's not like having to work on his chops. And he surely didn't need to work on his reading, because don't forget, he's going to every session. There's a piece of music. You were allowed those days. You had a session was called 3 hours. You had a 3-hour session,
Right.
and so he could have, let's say, 4 sessions that day. So that's 12 hours. Could be a movie, could be this, whatever it is. So he's given a piece of music. It could be 12 pieces of music that he's never seen before all day long. So he's constantly boom, 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 boom. And this went on for years until the 70s. And then he's doing film and TV. But it wasn't until I saw him practice, meaning when he's doing his own jazz albums, he started thinking about arrangement, whatever. That's when I realized kind of what, he did. I mean, occasionally I would go to his work, but the first time I ever went to his work, I was about 6, 7, and it was we were going out of town, so we had to go to work with Dad and leave from there. And it was Green Acres was the session. It was a Monday. They would always have Mondays at 11 o'clock, Vic Mizzy. And I remember this so well because all I remember is this guy, Vic Mizzy, who was one of the great composers, this man dancing on this, music stand, throwing his like this, and I don't know what he's doing. So it looked funny to a little kid. And
Sure.
that was the first time and then when he did Partridge Family and that first album came out and he got the credit, that's when, that was my era of my friends going, oh, your dad's name is on that album.
Right.
Wasn't proud about him working with the Beach Boys or Sinatra or anything else, but
Yeah.
he's working
Silly
with the Beach.
show.
He's working with Chris, the drummer.
That's so cool. You had a lot of challenges with the Wrecking Crew, as I well know.
Yeah, I mean,
over the finish line, but you
Well,
did
I
it.
started. Yeah, the thing about the Wrecking Crew that those don't know, I started when he was passing away. So
Your dad.
Dad.
Yeah,
Dad was passing away. He had a stroke in '92, and when he had the stroke, I realized. He realized, and we all realized his career was over. And so he basically, that was it. And it was bumming him out. And then he had cancer a few years later. And I just knew, I always wanted to tell that story about my father and what he did in the Wrecking Crew, they didn't call it that, but the session players of the 60s in LA. And I thought, well, we got to do it fast. So I put together a round table, put Hal Blaine, Carol Kay, and Plas Johnson at a round table, and we started filming. I was shooting 16 millimeter at the time, had 2 dollies, and I had my friends, all my friends that I work with helping me. So we did that, and Dad passed away about a year later. It was he went longer than we thought. But I tried to get the thing made after that. I tried to get, I took a nice 14-minute piece out of what I had going, and people would say, oh, this is great, but you'll never get it made. And their feeling was, you're not going to get it made because you're not going to get record companies and publishers to agree, or artists to agree to be part of this. And I'm like, that's negative. I'm not going to believe that. And I just kept going. And the thing is, I kept doing it. I mean, like I kept Susie, my wife, and I let's just say, I kept flipping the credit cards. I kept spending and I kept shooting. Because I didn't have, until I had something, I couldn't prove, the concept. And after 10 years, we didn't have anything other than a bunch of interviews. And now I had to cut something. So I borrowed more money and we cut something. And that's when we got into film festivals in '08 and '09, did really, really well. But again, I still have $500,000 on the back end to raise for music, for final, coloring and all that stuff, and licensing of everything else.
Well, and that was talk about just quickly the licensing, because that was massive, right? How many you call them music cues in a film, right?
Yeah. I mean, listen, every song, if you're going to put a song in there, someone needs to be paid. Right. And there's three parties that need to be paid: the record label, the publisher, and the musicians that were on it. And so there was these elements of, I wanted people to get paid. That's the whole point. I went to college because my father put us through school and had a home because people got paid for their music.
You of all people understood.
Yeah. And I had no problem with it. And to be honest with you, there was never a problem at all with the pricing they were giving us. That wasn't the problem. It was the amount of songs. We had 110 songs.
Yeah.
So, you figure at least $2,000 each song, whatever it was. So you do the numbers, or what, and we just kept going. But it wasn't about that. It was about people want to give us the money because they said you're never going to make money back. So it's about economics. If you're going to, basically spend this much money, but it's only going to make this much, it's not going to happen. And that's why I kept going. But sooner than, that's where I met you actually, and we went on the road. We showed the film, and we came up with ways of earning more money with that film.
Pass in the hat. Sort of.
Yeah, and I learned that from musicians. And, I learned a lot from you guys. The biggest fight that you and I ever had was
Which one?
Which one? The whole point. All right, so the sidebar to the audience. Where I look, we're here. Okay, there.
I don't know. You're asking the wrong guy.
How we?
But I have these.
Yes, sir. You got the questions. The whole idea is like social media was really in its beginning when we started doing that.
For that kind of
really
thing, absolutely.
Yeah. So we did have a Facebook page, but I would pass out those silly slips to get emails, and that was the point. Was the emails were so important
with golf pencils.
Yeah. Well, did you want me to do full big pens? That's a lot of money. Golf pencils.
I think you're missing the point. Go ahead.
And you know what? No one steals a golf pencil. They'll steal pens.
They all do.
Whatever. So, all right. So this is where we have controversy. Is I'm doing this and I'm passing out those pieces of paper. You sign your name and you put your email address and and how'd you hear about the film or whatever. And then I would take those emails and go home. But by the way, for the folks out there, I would tell them they would win a prize at the possibility they could win a prize at the end of the screening.
That's right.
And I would pick something out of the hat and of these pieces of paper. And if they gave me no information other than a name, I go, "Ooh, I can't read that. Oh well, crump, crump." You know what? Hell with them. And we give them a hat or whatever we were giving them away, and then but that was the way of building up that list. And by the time of a couple of years, we had 25,000 people on a mailing list. We had not Kickstarter. We had the Facebook page that had another 25,000. So when we had to do Kickstarter to raise the rest of the money, that we had to start.
Which is what you needed for crowdfunding. You had to have
absolutely
a base. Remember, Sean kind of taught us that. And you had it. And I mean, as much as we give each other crap about QR code.
Hold on. Let's go back for that. The crap.
Okay.
Let's finish this. All right. The
Please
crap
do.
is Greg said, because Greg's ahead of his time. Greg says, do a QR code. And what the hell's a QR code? It says a little
It'll be great.
Yeah,
People
right.
will love it.
People love it.
Would
Put
you
it
get
on your
one?
phone. Put it on the screen, and people could scan. This is 2012, so some people don't even have cameras in their phones. They're still on flip phones. You realize our audience is 70 plus, so technology wasn't their friend. So I said fine, and we did that, and I think I got one person signing up.
Yep, I know.
And it might have
bad
been you,
idea.
actually. You might have been you.
I didn't know how to do it either.
No. But we learned a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
And you keep learning.
It was incredible.
What doesn't.
To me, the experience was incredible traveling, doing those things. Even when you and I would, I think, lovingly get into it about various things. I dug it. That was
absolutely.
that was a lot of fun.
And that was the fun what you guys always had. You guys, and it's funny because you grew up traveling with musicians, and you were a roadie, and you were doing this, or we're doing all these things.
A bit. But I traveled a ton. Yeah.
Right. But that's so much fun, and because you become part of a family.
Yeah.
I wasn't in a band.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? My family is when I'm on a film set.
Yeah.
And yes, we are a family, and there's nothing better than being on location. Sometimes it's a pain in the ass, but
Sure.
sometimes it's so much fun.
Like your family.
Yeah. And you learn a lot. And when you're away from home, you're more experimental in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because you got nothing else to think about but, the next gig, the next day.
Yeah. But I sure enjoyed that. Well, this is perfect segue because I want to talk about the immediate family.
Yeah.
Because it's a sequel of sorts. I mean, you could...
Yeah, sure.
As someone who's deep in it, I could see differences. But talk about that. How'd you get on that?
So if you remember, after Wrecking Crew came out in 2015, we finally paid off the $500,000 that had to be paid off over the years. Mm-hmm. From Kickstarter to $1 donations, we did it all. And everybody down the 2015, that's literally 7 years after it first came out in festivals. So everybody thought I came and went and died. That was it. You know, people don't realize that. And so then I went to Magnolia and a couple others, and Magnolia said, "Yeah, we're interested." Distributors.
Yeah.
And they basically put it out on Netflix. They got it on Netflix for 3 years, and then they, you know, did VOD, video on demand. We did theaters at the time. I mean, we did really good. We had, I think we made like 900,000 in theaters, which is extraordinary at that time.
Sure. For a documentary. Right?
Yeah, and be amazing now. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no theaters now for that work, those kind of films. But so shell shocked, you know, I went bankrupt, which was unfortunate, but it gave me another life, you know, to be able to keep going forward. I learned a lot and never do it again, hopefully, knock on wood.
Don't finance your own kind of thing.
Yeah, well,
but you did what you did. It doesn't matter.
I don't really know. I don't.
It doesn't matter. Talk about immediate family.
Yeah. So, but you know, people always have great ideas for films. Absolutely, they're awesome ideas.
Yeah.
But you know, they come to me and it's like, that's great, but I can't. I'm not funding it. You got to help me fund it. I can't. You know, and so people, you know, whatever. And then somebody came. Greg Richling and Greg McVeigh and John Sheldon came to me a few years later, around 2019 it was.
You know what, Dan, you said my name. I didn't. You said the two Gregs.
Greg Richling.
And Greg McVeigh.
Oh, did I say it?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
So, Greg, let's not. Oh, God.
Nothing to do with it.
Nothing to do with it. All right. Something popped up on my screen. All right. So, 2019, these guys I knew, they were producers. They were asking me to direct something else of a different artist. It was, and I was fine with it, but the artist didn't want me. They wanted one of his own friends. I said, I don't care. And they were disappointed. His name was Greg Richling and Jack Pyatt and Jonathan Sheldon. And they said, would you be interested in doing something else about this? You know, there's a band called Immediate Family, and they mentioned who was in the band. It was like, oh yeah, now
you know those guys, yeah.
It was Waddy Wachtel, in Leland Sklar, Russ Kunkel, Cooch, Danny Kochmar, and Steve Pistel. And they had this band locally, and they were all the greatest players of the 70s. And I thought, now we're talking. Now I totally grasp that.
Your element, yeah.
My element. Yeah. And I had a meeting with them. We all had a meeting. I pitched my idea, and the next day they said Carole King could be interviewed in 3 weeks. And then it was like, now it's a run to the, here we go.
Here we go.
Well, the last one took 19 years. I thought I could at least get more than 3 weeks to start. But, thank God for certain people funding it. I won't mention their executive producer names because, they'll get inundated when people say, hey.
I got a movie idea.
Yeah. And thank God for them because, they were angels and they helped us get it there.
It's a cool movie.
The movie finally came out. So we got the movie made, did really well in the festivals, got 18 awards from, best music, best documentaries to audience awards and all kinds of things like that around the world. And then Magnolia picked it up.
Yeah.
And it's been great because it's a different generation.
Yep.
It's the same generation in a sense. It's funny how, but the audiences are the audiences haven't changed in terms of when I go there. Yeah. They're still in their 70s, but the ones that I started with in their 70s, they're in their 90s. So,
it's a cool, and there's definitely a thread,
absolutely,
through it all, and
people think it's always about a music doc. It's not. It's about it's camaraderie. It's about having time where you young and you want to try things and you believe in things and you don't have that stress of life. Yeah, stress, but you know what I mean.
You're going for it.
You have big eyes.
You're going for it. Well, and this is the kind of the thing I want to talk. Kind of wrap up here a little bit. That everything you do, there's this sense of family. You and I have talked about this a little bit. Whether it's obviously the Wrecking Crew was literally your family, immediate family. And what sounds like what you're doing with Wolfman Jack and then Manhattan Transfer. And I met your mom and your brother Damon and I are close, when I do see him. And there's always that thing. I mean, do you and I can tell talking to you and knowing you that it is high in your priority is family. And I think it's such a great thing. I mean, is it something you set out consciously? I don't think so.
No, not at all. Not at all. I think I learned from the Wrecking Crews, what I learned was, for those who've never seen it, or for those who've seen it actually, it never started the way, it started a different way. When I started making that film, I did not want to be the director. I didn't want to be in the film. I was the director only. And even though my father was part of it, we started cutting 20 minutes, Claire Scanlon, the editor, and I, and another friend, Grady Cooper, came in, and he said, "Why are you guys cutting it like this?" I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Why are you not involving yourself into this storyline?" I said, "I don't want to be." Yeah. I said, "Because as soon as I do that," I said, "I'm not the director, I'm the son of." And I was trying to build on the ideas I can direct.
Sure.
I was this, I was that. And, did
it's
everything.
An outsider. I'm an outsider.
Yeah, I just felt like, it's Tommy's son's doing it. He's not really in the film business. He doesn't.
Right, sure.
And so, but he goes, but it'll be a better story. He goes, anybody in this room could do what you just did, but if you don't do what, that, you're not taking advantage of it. So I thought about it, we played around with it, and it worked. And then what I realized as we saw all those screenings over the years, where people understand is, the music, they all have a song that brings them back to their time. It could
something.
Be their prom, it could be whatever it is. That's another level of audience connecting. Where the audience also connects is the ideas, you're a father, you're a mother, you're a son, you're a daughter, your brother, whatever, sister, and you understand that. So when in the first movie my dad's passing away, I realized people understand that because their parents have passed away, or maybe they're old and they're worried about it, they're sick, and they have kids, and it's what's the legacy that they're leaving. The sad part is not having someone.
I agree.
There's a lot of us out there that might not have anybody.
Right.
And, and it's, I understand, but family is really important, and it doesn't mean it has to be blood.
Yeah.
And that's
absolutely.
why the band thing is really important. Because, as you've been closer to people on the road than some of your loved ones, because you spend, times and you share things with people that you won't share with your family.
Well, Leland talks about that so much and so eloquently, about that it's family, those guys, I mean, literally it's called Immediate Family, the band.
Yeah.
But, when he's talking to Phil Collins, it's so touching. And that hits a nerve with, I told Leland this, I said, I get choked up when I see that, not as musician to musician, but as a family, just something even deeper, and I think it's cool that every one of your projects has some element of that in it, and it makes it just all the more powerful.
It was like, but it's a beautiful story. I'm like, that's what I love about these films.
Yeah, no, you do incredible work. Thanks, brother. I love you.
Yeah, I love you too.